Here, all right, here we want to just understand the chemical composition of cell wall. The chemical composition of cell wall is considerably variable from plant to plant, from families of one plant species to the families of another plant species. Or, if you'll try to compare the cell wall of algae with the bacteria and that of the fungi and plants, so all of them are considerably varied in their chemical constituent. But here we'll just try to look into the chemical composition of primary and secondary cell wall. As we know that primary cell wall is a young, growing and expanding early formed cell wall. So the composition of such a cell wall is different from the composition of a cell wall found in the fully differentiated mature cell wall, which is secondary cell wall. As we understand, the cellulose is one of the important chemical constituent of the plant cell wall mainly. And if we compare the composition between a primary cell wall and secondary cell wall, 15 to 40% of the primary cell wall contain cellulose, 40 to 60% in the secondary cell wall. But this amount can reach up to 90% in certain fibers, like on the cotton fibers, and the in certain and the flax and hemp. The amount of this cellulose can reach to over 60% in the on a dry weight basis. It provides a basic framework or fundamental framework to the cell wall composition and give us tensile strength and very important for the rigidity and for the hardness of the cell wall. Now, hemicellulose is another important polymers, and they could be available in a variety of different forms. It contains 20 to 35% in the primary cell wall and 15 to 35% in the secondary cell wall. The function of attached to the surface of cellulose and giving extra strength or mechanical support to the microfibrillar framework of the cell wall. Pectins, very important cementing soluble substances which contain a short or long polymers, and they are associated with a different type of minerals in the cell wall composition. Pectins can be found from 25 to 50% in the primary cell wall, and it is available in the low amount in the secondary cell wall. Lignin are usually the interfibrillar matrix material of secondary cell wall mainly. However, they can be found in the primary cell wall, but in quite trace amount, 0 to 5% in the primary cell wall and 10 to 30% in the secondary cell wall. And this amount can reach up to 35 or 40% in the certain wood sample or wood material. Lignin is a biological plastic. With the deposition of lignin in the cell wall get dead and they're becoming totally impermeable. These are the three-dimensional racemic complex molecule, usually arranged in a non-fibrillar manner in the matrix of the secondary cell wall. It's involved in the impermeability of the cell wall. Now, there are structural protein as the cell are in the early young stage are more active, so there could be many structural proteins involved, including the glycoproteins, which usually containing hydroxyproline and hydroxyproline. Minerals and the lipids are other different type of chemical which can be found in the primary cell wall and secondary cell wall. We have a calcium or magnesium carbonate, a silicate compound. These are the compounds which can be found in the plants of different families. For example, if we see the silica is very predominantly deposited in and the grasses, soberine, sporopollenin, They are the some other important type of lipoidals molecule are the molecule which provide impermeability and protection, and they can be found in the cell wall of a certain cell. Particularly, sporopylenine is an important chemical constituent of the pollen grain, and soberine can be found epidermal cells of certain plants. There are other type of different chemical compound, like if we see the weeds have an agar, and the cell wall of the fungi have a chitin in it. On the other hand, the bacterial cell wall is chemically composed of peptidoglycans, and other archaeal cell wall are made of a pseudopeptidoglycan molecule. So we have a different nature of these chemical compound.